Hello champions and happy Monday. Today we are going to review for tomorrow's checkpoint. You're going to do an awesome job on your checkpoint, just like you're going to do an awesome job on this review. Mr. Smiles is ready to go. I hope you are too. The first thing we need to talk about are fractions as division. Remember, I can write the results of a division problem as a fraction. For example, 2 divided by 3 would result in 2 over 3. Dividend over divisor. Now, you try a few. 4 divided by 9, what would the result be? The result would be 4 over 9, the number I'm dividing over the number I'm dividing by. Which one is the same as 7 divided by 2? Well, 7 is the number being split up, and 2 is the number I'm dividing by. 7 divided by 2 is 7 halves. I could change that into a mixed number. Which one is the same as 6 divided by 5? It's 6 over 5, the number I'm dividing over the number I'm dividing by. We can also use this to help us solve division problems. Mr. Jones bought 4 pounds of clay. He let 10 students share the clay equally. How many pounds of clay did each student receive? Well, what's being split up in this problem? The 4 pounds of clay are being split up. So what division sentence could I use to solve it? I'm going to divide 4 divided by 10. 4 pounds split across 10 groups. How do I write that result as a fraction? It's 4/10. Now, do I need to simplify my answer? Yes, 2 goes into both of those numbers. When I divide both by 2, my result is 2/5. Each student receives 2/5 pounds of clay. Let's do another skill. You'll also need to be able to multiply fractions by whole numbers. Let's look at the first one. 4/5 times 6. We're going to multiply our numerator times our whole number, or 4 times 6. An easy way to remember this is that whole numbers have a denominator of 1, and now I can multiply across. 4 times 6 is 24. 5 stays the same. I'm not cutting my whole into a different number of pieces. Now I need to change that into a mixed number through division. 24 divided by 5. How many times does 5 go into 24? 5 goes into 24 4 times without going over. What's 4 times 5? It's 20. When I subtract, there are 4 left over. How do I write that result as a mixed number? It's 4 and 4/5. Let's try another example. What is 2/3 times 7, written as an improper fraction? Well, 2 times 7 is 14, and my denominator is still 3. What do I need to do now? I need to change that result into a mixed number by dividing 14 divided by 3. When you divide 14 divided by 3, what mixed number results? Well, 3 goes into 14 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. And when I subtract, I have 2 left over. The answer is 4 and 2/3. We can also solve word problems that involve multiplying fractions times whole numbers. Eric runs 3/4 miles every day for 5 days. How many miles did Eric run? Well, I'm going to multiply 3/4 times 5. When I multiply 3/4 times 5, what improper fraction results? Well, 3 times 5 is 15. The denominator stays the same because I'm not cutting each whole into a different number of pieces. Now I can change 15 over 4 into a mixed number. What mixed number results when I divide 15 divided by 4? Well, 4 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. And when I subtract, there's 3 left over. Eric ran 3 3/4 miles. We can also use multiplication to find a fraction of a number. Let's find 2/3 of 18. That means I need to multiply 2/3 times 18. First, what improper fraction results when I multiply 2/3 times 18? I can multiply 18 times 2 out to the side to help me. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 more is 3. So my answer is 36 over 3. Remember, I should always divide to change my number into a whole number or mixed number. So, let's do it. I'm going to start with my division. Can I divide 3 tens into 3 groups? Yes, I can. How many times does 3 go into 3? 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. So when I subtract, I have none left over. Now I need to bring down my 6. How many times does 3 go into 6? 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. So when I subtract, I have none left over. The answer is 12. 2/3 of 18 is 12. Now let's find 4/5 of 30. I'm going to start by multiplying 4 over 5 times 30. When I multiply 4 times 30, I get 120, and my denominator stays the same. It's 5. Now, let's divide to change that into a whole number or mixed number. 120 divided by 5. Where should I start my division? I should start my division with 12 tens. How many times does 5 go into 12? 5 goes into 12 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. When I subtract, I have 2 left over, and I can bring down my 0. How many times does 5 go into 20? 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and I have no remainder. 24 is 4/5 of 30. We can also use this skill to solve word problems. Let's look at an example. Mr. Gibson bought 20 cupcakes. 3/4 of the cupcakes were chocolate, and the rest were vanilla. How many cupcakes were chocolate? Well, I know 3/4 of the 20 cupcakes were chocolate. So what operation can I use with 3/4 and 20? 3/4 times 20. What's 3/4 times 20? Well, 3 times 20 is 60, and my denominator stays 4. Now I need to divide to change that into a whole number or mixed number. Let's divide 60 divided by 4. How many times does 4 go into 6? 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. When I subtract, I have 2 left over. Bring down your 0. How many times does 4 go into 20? 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. When I subtract, I have 0 left over. So, 15 cupcakes were chocolate. If I know there were 20 total cupcakes, and 15 of them were chocolate, how could I find the number of vanilla cupcakes? I need to subtract to find how many are left over. What's 20 minus 15? Well, when I subtract 20 minus 15, I get 5. There were 5 vanilla cupcakes. We also talked about multiplying fractions in this unit. When I multiply a fraction, I can multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. What's 3/4 times 3/5? Well, 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 5 is 20. That number can't be simplified or changed into a mixed number, so the answer is just 9 over 20. What's 2/7 times 1/3? Well, 2 times 1 is 2. 7 times 3 is 21. The answer is 2 over 21. We also talked about multiplying decimals in this unit. Let's look at the first example, 5/10 times 6. This has one number behind the decimal point, only the tenths place. So my answer will only need one number behind the decimal point. What's 6 times 5? It's 30. How should I place the decimal in this number? 5/10 times 6 is 3 0/10, or just plain 3. Let's look at the next example. 5/10 times 6/10. I don't just line up my decimal points. First, I know I'm going to have tenths times tenths is hundredths. There are going to be two numbers behind the decimal. 1, 2. Now I can multiply. What's 5 times 6? It's 30. How many numbers go behind the decimal? 2. So how would I place the decimal in this number? I would write 0 and 30 hundredths, or 0 and 3 tenths. Let's look at another example. 5 hundredths times 6 tenths. Here, how many numbers are going to be behind the decimal? Well, I've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 3 numbers behind the decimal. When I multiply 6 times 5, I still get 30. Now, how do I place the decimal? I need 0 and 30 thousandths, or 0 and 3 hundredths. Now you try a couple. What's 13 and 57 hundredths times 3? Well, 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 more is 17. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. How many digits should I place behind the decimal in this one? Well, tenths, hundredths. There are 2 digits behind the decimal. So, the answer is 40 and 71 hundredths. Now you try another one. What's 2 and 48 hundredths times 5 tenths? Let's see how you did. There are 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal. Hundredths times tenths makes thousandths. Now I can multiply like normal. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 more is 24. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. Now, I need to place 3 numbers behind the decimal. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 1 and 240 thousandths, which is the same as 1 and 24 hundredths. You've done a great job on this video. Please move to Prodigy Practice until it is time to take the exit ticket.